Good morning, everyone. Before seeing today's class, you see what all we have seen in last class. In last class, we have seen about structures of operating system. So, what are the structures we have seen? We have seen simple structure, monolithic kernel, layered structure, microkernel, and modules. Okay. So, this topic we have seen in the first unit. Then we started third unit. In third unit, we saw how a process or a program will be allocated in our memory, and what do you mean by that memory location, and how address is binded at different stages of program's life. That is while compiling, how address will be changing, and then while loading some system libraries and some other modules, how the address will be changing. At last, during the execution time, there may be dynamic linking. So we'll be using dynamic relocation registers and all for changing that address. So all those we have seen in last class. Today's class, we will see about swapping. So swapping, from the name itself, you're going to swap something. Okay. So here, what we'll be having in memory? In memory, we'll be having program and data. Okay. In memory, we'll be having the program and data. So in main memory, if you see, means the necessary program and data running at a particular point of time only will be brought into memory. Okay. So at a particular point of time, what are the programs and the data required for execution will be brought into main memory from the secondary memory, because the main memory may be small, so that it can't hold all the programs and data necessary for the complete system execution. So at a particular point of time, which program is going to execute, what are the data are going to be used, all those things only will be brought into the main memory. Okay. So in that only we have seen about how we are going to allocate that memory. In the previous class and all, we saw how the different process will be in memory. See here in this example, this slide number 3, you can see in main memory only we'll be having our operating system, as well as there will be some user space. So in that user space only we'll be having our different process. Okay, so all those process will be residing in this user space in main memory. So at a particular point of time, we can't have as many as memory as possible because of the restriction of main memory capacity. So depending upon the capacity of the main memory only, we'll be placing that much amount of process in the memory. So main memoryல எவ்வளோ process hold பண்ண முடியுமோ அவ்வளோ process தான் அந்த current execution timeக்கு hold பண்ண முடியும். Okay. So மத்த எல்லா memory process வந்து எல்லாம் எங்க இருக்கும்? Will be in the secondary memory. The secondary memory is also known as disk storage or backing store. Okay. So in this backing store, we'll be having rest of the process memory. So if a process need to execute, then that process will be brought into main memory from the backing store. For example, here in this case, we have assumed in the slide number 3, we have assumed that in the user space in main memory, we are having a process P1. For example, all the memory in main memory is full with the process. So if you want to execute another process, say P2, then that process P2 need to be brought into memory before execution. Okay. But the space in the main memory is full. So what we can do means we can swap between process. That is, if you no need that process P1 in the memory, or for a particular point of time, you may not use the process P1 in the main memory. So okay, here we have considered we want to execute the process P2, but that process P2 is not currently available in the main memory, but it is available in the disk storage or the backing store. And we have to check whether there is some process in the main memory which won't execute for a particular point of time. While checking, if you observe that the process in the main memory, say P1, is a process which won't get execute for some duration. So what we can do? We can swap that P1 process by P2 process. That is, the process P1 in the main memory will be swapped out. We will be saying it as swapped out or rolled out. And the process P2 will be swapped into the main memory. Okay. We want to execute the process P2, but that process P2 is not in the main memory. So we have to bring that process from the backing store. But here what is the condition? That main memory is completely occupied with other processes. So we have to choose a process which won't execute for a particular duration. So that process will be swapped out, and that process P2 will be entering into the main memory. Okay, the swapped out and swap in operation will be performing. So this is what swapping in memory management. Swapping means you're going to swap out a process in the main memory which won't execute for a particular or for a duration of time. So that process will be swapped out, and the process which needs execution will be brought inside the main memory. So that operation is known as swapping. For this we need swap out and swap in memory cycles. Okay, that is this process is sent out of the main memory, and the other process P2 is brought into the main memory. The process of sending that process P1 from main memory into the backing store is known as swap out or roll out. The process of bringing the process P2 into the main memory from the backing store is known as swap in or roll in. Okay. So the swapping operation, swapping in memory management involves rollout or swap out and roll in or swap in operations. Okay. So here we are going to swap between different process in the main memory. So for this, we need some transfer time. That is one process. So in that case, the P1 has to go out from the main memory to the disk storage, and another process, say P2, may needs to enter the main memory from the disk storage. So there will be some transferring operation happening in the system. So we require some total transfer time. The total transfer time will be the time duration taken out for swapping the process P1 out of the main memory, and the time duration taken for swapping in the process P2 inside the main memory from the backing store. So these two time will be taken as the total transfer time in case of swapping. Okay. So this swapping, if you see, means here also we'll be having this ready queue. Okay. Here we'll be having a ready queue to keep the set of process in the backing store which is ready to execute. So எந்தெந்த ப்ராசஸ்லாம் எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ண ரெடியா இருக்கோ அந்த ப்ராசஸ் எல்லாமே பேக்கிங் ஸ்டோர், தட் இஸ் இந்த டிஸ்க் ஸ்டோரேஜ்ல ரெடி கியூல பிளேஸ் பண்ணியிருப்போம். ஸோ அந்த ப்ராசஸ் இமீடியட்டா எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ணோம்னா that process will be sent from that ready queue in the disk storage into the main memory. Okay. So this swapping has some disadvantage. That is the time, total transfer time will be maximum because we want to bring a process out of the memory and we have to bring a process inside the memory. So two accessing time will be happening here. So this is a bit disadvantage in swapping. So in the modified versions of swapping, that is in the Unix system or Linux system or Windows system and all, normally this swapping in memory will be disabled. So when we'll be enabling the swapping means if we'll be setting a threshold level for a memory. We are having a main memory. For example, if the main memory capacity is 512 MB, I'm saying for an example, 512 512 MB is the capacity for main memory which we are considering. So if you are having the threshold of 400 MB, if that main memory reaches that memory capacity 400 MB. If it exceeds that 400 MB, okay. So the main memory capacity என்னது 512 MB, but அதில் process accommodate பண்ணும்போது 400 MB யோட exceed ஆச்சு. So அப்போனா we have set the threshold value as 400 MB for this case. So 400 MB க்கு மேல போச்சுன்னா நம்ம swapping யூஸ் பண்ணலாம். 400 MB க்கு மேல போச்சுன்னா almost our main memory is filled with process. So it is difficult for a new process to accommodate in the main memory. So a new or process main memory kulla varadhukku there will be some difficulty. So at that time only we'll be using the swapping. So ஒரு threshold நம்ம set பண்ணிரோம். Okay. So ஒரு 512 MB main memory இருந்தனா அதுல ஒரு 400 MB ஒரு threshold value set பண்ணிட்டோம். So அந்த 400 MB விட அதிகமா நம்ம main memoryல ப்ராசஸ்லாம் அக்காமடேட் பண்ணியிருக்கு. ஆக்குபைட் மெமரி வந்து 400 மெமரியோட அதிகமா இருந்ததுன்னா 400 MB விட ஆக்குபைட் மெமரி அதிகமா இருந்தா at that time only will be enabling this swapping feature. So அப்ப என்ன பண்ணிக்கலாம்? So memory almost full இருக்கும் போது so one process which is not used for a some duration will go out of the main memory into the disk storage and another process from the backing store will be brought into the main memory for execution. Okay. So ஒரு particular threshold set பண்ணிட்டு அந்த particular threshold level exceed பண்ணும்போது தான் swapping வந்து enable பண்ணுவாங்க in modified versions of swapping because swapping consumes maximum transfer time because we need to send a process from the main memory to the disk storage and we have to bring another process from the disk storage into the main memory. So this involves somewhat longer transfer time. Okay. And there is also context switching in swapping. Already we have seen what do you mean by context switching. Context switching means the switching between different process. Okay. See in swapping what we have did, a process from the main memory say P1 get out of the main memory to the disk storage and another process say P2 entered from the disk storage into the main memory. Okay. That is already one process is executing in the main memory, that process is switched to another process. Okay. While doing that context switching means changing the execution of the particular process. Okay. In CPU. So CPU la ஒரு process execute பண்றதுல இருந்து இன்னொரு process execution நம்ம change பண்றதா context switching. Okay, in that case, we are having some constraints. So we have already seen a process may be in waiting state. So we have seen different process states, new state, running state, waiting state and all. So waiting state la and the process எதுக்காக போகும்? Suppose that process needs some input output data. But the data is not available for that particular process means we'll be saying that process is in waiting state with some pending input output operation. So those processes like data waiting for some input or output data may not be swapped out. So எந்த ஒரு process மெயின் மெமரியில் இருக்கும் போது ஏதாவது ஒரு டேட்டாக்காக ஏதாவது ஒரு இன்புட் அவுட்புட் டேட்டாக்காக வெயிட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கு. பெண்டிங் இன்புட் அவுட்புட் டேட்டாக்காக வெயிட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கு. அந்த டைம் என்ன பண்ண மாட்டோம், அந்த ப்ராசஸ் வந்து ஸ்வாப் அவுட் பண்ண மாட்டோம். ஓகே, because we need a pending input output data. So we might have send a request to the input and output device for that data. Okay, while that device accepts that request and sends the data to a particular memory location, that process should be in the main memory at the same location. So only we won't swap out the process which is having pending input output data, because already a request to the input and output device is sent by that process which needs some input output data. So that request So the request from the input output device will be accepted and it will be processed in the same location. So only we won't swap out the data which needs some pending input output data. Okay. For that only what we are doing means these type of data which waits for some input output. The process which waits for the input output like this will be sent to kernel space. Okay. So input output operation transfer will be done in kernel space and then to the input output device. Okay. So if a process needs some input output data means that data will be transferred to the input output device through the kernel space. So first from the process the data, for example if you are considering an output data means the data from the process will be transferred to the kernel space and then to the input output device. So we are having double buffering concept, because for transmitting usually we need a buffer. So buffer is a temporary storage. In kernel space also we'll be having a buffer. In our input output device also we'll be having a buffer. So in this case we need double buffering concept. Okay. So this is some problem, because for double buffering also is somewhat a overhead in the swapping. Okay. So only due to all these problem, standard swapping is not used in modern computer system, but a modified version will be used. So what is that modified version? That is, we'll be setting a threshold for the main memory, and if that threshold value exceeds only, that main memory will be doing some swapping process with the secondary storage. Okay. So normally this modified version is preferred, because we are having some problems like pending input output process can't be swapped out, and also there will be a problem like double buffering in input output operation. So to avoid these and all, we'll be using only the modified version of swapping. Okay. We see the swapping concept in mobile system, that is in smartphone and all we are using the same OS. So in that operating system also we'll be having some memory management technique. So if you see in mobile system and all, the swapping is not supported, because in mobile phone we'll be using flash memory. In flash memory we can read and write a block of memory, but the frequent writing to the flash memory is a tedious one. Okay, the frequent writing to the flash memory is a tedious one. So the swapping is not supported in mobile system, because in flash memory we'll be having only limited number of write operation. In case of swapping, we'll be bringing one process to the main memory, and some other process from the main memory will be brought back to the storage. Likewise, we'll be reading and writing some process between the main memory and the storage. So this type of writing is prohibited, or it is limited in flash memory. So only we are not supporting the concept of swapping in mobile systems. And also, if we consider the throughput in case of flash memory, throughput means it is nothing but the data rate. There is a data, how much data is read or write at a particular point of time. That throughput will also be poor in case of flash memory. But then what will be happening in a mobile system if the main memory is full means if we consider this iOS, this Apple iOS operating system and all, if we see means that if a main memory is full means then a particular application, that is a particular process, will voluntarily remove from the allocated main memory. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி ஆப்பிள் ஐஓஎஸ்ல என்ன பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா, ஸோ மெயின் மெமரி ஃபுல்லா இருக்கும் போது வாலண்டரா ஏதாவது ஒரு ப்ராசஸ் அலோகேட் பண்ணியிருப்போமா, அந்த ப்ராசஸ் ரிமூவ் ஆகும். ஓகே, ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி ரிமூவ் ஆகிற என்ன இருக்கும்னா, this read only data will be thrown out and reloaded from flash if needed. So the data which are to be only read, so the read only data will be thrown out and reloaded from flash memory. If needed, it will be reloaded from flash memory. Okay, flash memory is a secondary memory which we are using in mobile system and all. And also, if a process fails in the main memory, that failure also will leads to freeing that process memory in the main memory. So if there is any failure, so ஏதாவது ஒரு ப்ராசஸ் மெயின் மெமரியில ரன் ஆகும் போது அது ஃபெயில் ஆச்சுன்னா என்ன பண்ணும், அந்த ப்ராசஸ் அப்படியே டெர்மினேட் பண்ணிட்டு இந்த ப்ராசஸோட மெமரியை ஃப்ரீ பண்ணிடுவாங்க மெயின் மெமரியில இருந்து. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரிலாம் we can free the main memory if we are having low memory capacity. And also, if you see in a mobile and all, if your memory is full means you'll be getting a message that this application is stopped, like that and all. That is, our Android terminates the apps if low memory. Okay, the free memory is low means our Android OS itself will terminate some app, but it will first write that application state to the flash memory. Okay, before terminating, what this Android OS and all will do means it will write that application state to the flash memory, because it will be helpful for fast restarting. So in Android and all, to free a memory, a app will be terminated and that application state will be returned to the flash. Okay, and this iOS as well as Android, both the OS support a paging concept. Okay, these two operating system in mobile system support another memory management technique known as paging. The swapping memory management concept is not supported by mobile system because of this flash memory which we are using in mobile system, because that flash memory has limited number of write operation to be involved in flash memory. So only we won't prefer or we won't use this swapping in main memory. Then what will happen if the main memory is full in case of this mobile system? In case of Apple iOS, the data which is a read only type will be removed from the main memory and it will be sent to the flash, and that will be reloaded from the flash if needed. Or sometimes some process which may gets failed in the main memory, that process will be terminated and it will be removed from the main memory in case of Apple iOS. In case of Android operating system, what will happen if we are having low free memory, then an app will be terminated. So in Android and all, I hope you might have seen, if your memory is full means there will be a message that this app is stopped working, like that and all. You might have see some pop-up message in your mobile phone. So like that, this Android will terminate any app. Okay, to terminate any app if you are having low free memory space. But before terminating that app, this Android will write that application state into the flash memory, because it will be only helpful if we have cleared some memory, and for restarting that application, we have to write that application state into the flash memory. Okay, So these Apple iOS and Android don't support swapping, but it supports another memory management technique called paging. So we will see that paging concept in the upcoming classes. Okay, swapping is a basic memory management technique. If you see the memory management technique means it is broadly classified into two types. One is contiguous memory allocation. Another one is non-contiguous memory allocation. In contiguous memory allocation, we are having another two types. One is fixed partition scheme. Another one is multiple partition scheme. In non-contiguous, we are having two types: paging scheme and segmentation scheme. So in this unit, we'll be seeing all these memory management techniques in detail. We'll see one by one. First, we'll see contiguous memory allocation. In contiguous memory allocation, so from the name itself, we can find out that the memory is allocated in a continuous fashion. Okay, so ஒரு ப்ராசஸ்க்கு மெமரி அலோகேட் பண்றோம்னா அந்த மெயின் மெமரியில ஆல்ரெடி சம் ப்ராசஸ் இருக்கும். அந்த ப்ராசஸ்ல இப்போ புதுசா ஒரு ப்ராசஸ்க்கு மெமரி அலோகேட் பண்ணோம்னா ஒரு கண்டினியூஸ் மெமரியை தான் அலோகேட் பண்ணுவாங்க. தட் இஸ் ஃப்ரம் 1000 to 2000 memory location. Like that, a memory will be allocated for a particular process. It is discontinuous. Okay, the broken piece of memory won't be allocated to a particular process in case of contiguous memory allocation. But in non-contiguous memory allocation, our memory will be broken into pieces, and those pieces of memory will be allocated for a particular process. Okay, that we will see in the later session. So in contiguous memory allocation, the continuous memory segment will be allocated to a particular process. Okay, the memory allocation will be continuous. So it is, we have already seen in main memory will be having our operating system as well as the user process. The main memory itself will be of a limited capacity. So we have to use it in a efficient way. So only we are going for all these memory management technique. So this contiguous memory allocation is a earlier method. So here we are having two types. One is fixed memory partition and multiple memory partition. Okay. So here if we consider means this main memory will be usually partitioned, and that one will be having the operating system. In the previous result we saw, so the main memory will be having operating system. This operating system will be in the lower part of the memory. So along with that operating system, we'll be having our interrupt vector. So what do you mean by interrupt vector? Interrupt vector represents the starting address of a particular interrupt service routine. So for a computer system, we may have many types of interrupt. So for all those interrupts, we'll be having each interrupt service routine. So the starting address of that interrupt service routine will be saved in a table known as interrupt vector table. So in the memory, in the lower part, along with the operating system, we'll be having our interrupt vector table also. So this user processor will be in the higher part of the main memory. And in contiguous memory allocation, each process will be allocated a single contiguous section of memory. Okay, for each process, a continuous section of memory will be allocated in this contiguous memory allocation scheme. Okay, for this we are having some hardware support. Okay, we have said that for each memory, a continuous section of memory will be allocated. Okay, ஒவ்வொரு ப்ராசஸ்க்கும் ஒரு கண்டினியூஸ் செக்ஷன் ஆஃப் மெமரி வந்து என்ன பண்றோம், அலோகேட் பண்றோம் நம்ம சொல்லியிருக்கோம். ஸோ அப்போ அந்த ப்ராசஸோட மெமரியில தான் நம்ம ரீட் பண்ண போறோமா, நம்ம ரைட் பண்ண போறோமா, அந்த மாதிரி தெரிஞ்சிருக்கிறதுக்காக we having a hardware protection mechanism here. Okay, this is similar to the previous hardware mechanism. Okay, we will see that here we are having CPU. So from the CPU, the address generated is known as logical address. Logical address means it is address generated by the CPU. Okay, First, this logical address will be compared with the limit register. So what is the content of limit register? Limit register holds the length of that process memory. For example, if you're having a process in the say P1, the location from 1000 to 2000 memory location. So what is the length of that process memory? From 1000 to 2000 is 1000. So the value of limit register will be 1000 in this case. Okay. So for example, I am considering the generated logical address is 1200. So I'm considering we have seen here in this contiguous memory allocation, logical address will be generated. Example, I'm considering the address to be 200 because we are seeing the address for a particular part of a memory. Okay, that is for a process P1. The address starts from 1000 to 1200. Sorry, 1000 to 2000 is the process memory. Okay, we are having in the main memory. So main memory la process P1 எந்த location இருந்து எந்த location வரைக்கும் இருக்கு? 1000 location இருந்து 2000 location வரைக்கும் இருக்கு. இப்போ suppose CPU generate பண்ற address the logical address நம்ம consider பண்ணியிருக்கோம். The address generated by the CPU is logical address. First, the logical address will be compared with the limit register, whether it is less than that limit register value. The condition satisfy means it will be added with the content of relocation register. So relocation register is similar to your base register. That is from that logical address, you are going to place that content in physical address. Okay, so for that some value will be added by means of relocation register. For example, 1000 to 2000 means the logical address generated may be 200. Okay, so the limit register value is 1000. So first we'll be checking the condition 200 less than the limit register content, that is 200 less than 1000. The condition will be checked. So the condition satisfies. So next, the relocation register is nothing but your base register. That is the process P1 memory starts from 1000 to 2000. So the relocation register value is the base register content, that is 1000. So here this relocation register value is also 1000. So this 200 plus 1000 will be added and it will generate the physical address. Okay. Likewise only we'll be having the generated physical address by means of this relocation register and limit register. So if that condition fails means it leads to addressing error. That it indicates that the memory location is not meant for that particular process, say P1 we have considered in this case. Okay. Likewise, we'll be checking each and every address whether it is within that process memory limit or not. If it is not within that process memory limit, then it leads to a trap. Trap is nothing but a interrupt. So this trap indicates that there is some addressing error in the system. Okay. So we have seen in contiguous memory allocation there is two types. One is a fixed partition allocation. Another one is a multiple partition allocation. So here this fixed partition allocation, so the partition, the memory will be partitioned. So here in this case shown in the slide number 9, here we are having 6 memory partition from 0 to 1. Sorry, 0 to 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Likewise, we are having 6 memory partitions. So each partition is of size 500 KB, 75 KB, 100 KB, 30 KB, 20 KB and 150 KB. So we said in fixed partition allocation, the memory will be partitioned. That is, the memory will be divided into a fixed size, but that fixed size may not be a equal. So நம்ம என்ன சொல்றோம், மெமரியை வந்து டிவைட் பண்றோம்னு சொல்றோம், ஆனா ஈக்குவலா டிவைட் பண்றோம்னு கிடையாது. மெமரியை எப்படினாலும் நம்ம டிவைட் பண்ணிக்கலாம். ஸோ இங்க 50, 75, 100, 30, 20, 150. Likewise, we have divided the whole main memory. So in this fixed partition allocation, the whole main memory will be divided with some fixed values. Okay, like this shown in this slide number 9. Then how that process will be allocated? For example, if a process P1 of capacity 60 KB enters, means it may occupy the 75 KB memory location, and after that also we'll be having some space. I said this process P1 is of size 60 KB. Okay, enters into the main memory and it occupies the location, first location, which is of 75 KB. This process P1 is 60 KB and it occupied in 75 KB. Then what will be the remaining memory in that particular partition? 75 minus 60 is 15 KB. So we are having this 15 KB. There is some fragment. So here this fixed partition, we are having some fragment. So this type of fragment is known as internal fragment. That is, this internal partition itself, we are having some fragments in memory, and this fragment is known as internal fragments. Okay, that is 75 KB ஒரு மெமரி லொகேஷன்ல ஒரு ப்ராசஸ் P1 வந்து 60 KB ல அலோகேட் பண்றோம். அப்ப ரிமைனிங் 15 KB இருக்கு. அந்த ரிமைனிங் 15 KB வந்து வேற எந்த ப்ராசஸ்மே அலோகேட் பண்ண முடியாது. ஸோ அப்போ ஒரு ஃப்ராக்மெண்ட் ஆஃப் மெமரியா இருக்கு. ஸோ அந்த ஃப்ராக்மெண்ட் ஆஃப் மெமரியை என்னன்னு சொல்றோம்? இன்டர்னல் ஃப்ராக்மெண்டேஷன். Okay, that is internal fragments இருக்கு நாம சொல்றோம். So in the same way, see here in this memory location, another process, say P2 of memory 90 KB. Okay, another process P2 of memory 90 KB enters the main memory and it occupies in the second partition, that is of 100 KB. So this P2 is of 90 KB memory and we are having remaining 100 KB minus 90 KB, 10 KB memory will be remaining in that particular partition. So this leads to 10 KB internal fragmentation. Okay, I hope now you have understood the concept of fragmentation. And here we have seen about internal fragmentation in fixed partition allocation. Next we will see multiple partition allocation. So in multiple partition allocation, we'll be having in main memory, normally we'll be having OS, and after that we'll be having user space. So in that user space, we'll be having different process. See here in the slide number 10, everyone refer the figure in the below in the slide. See below that operating system, we are having process, different process. So here that user space will be having multiple partitions, but there is no fixed size of that each partition. In the previous case we saw we are having the fixed size for each and every partition, but in multiple partition allocation there is no fixed size for each partition. Okay, randomly process of some size can enter into the user space. Likewise we can have, there is no fixed size partition. Okay, see in this example, below that operating system, we are having process P5, process 8, then process 2. For example, this main memory, for example, this main memory, after this process 8 gets completed its execution, it will leave from the main memory. So likewise it leaves, there you can see some blue color spacing. Okay, this blue color spacing is a empty space. There is a available memory in the main memory. So this available block of memory is known as whole. Okay, this available block of memory in the main memory is known as whole. And after some point of time, some other process, say process 9, may enter into the main memory. See, that process will be allocated like this at the next stage. And after allocation also, we may have some free space. There is some hole in the main memory. So that hole can be utilized for allocating some other process. See, in the next stage, we have allocated that memory for process 10. Likewise, we can allocate the available free memory, there is a hole, to other process which enters into the main memory for execution. Okay. So in this multiple partition allocation, we are having memory of variable partition sizes. So here the partition size is not fixed. So நம்ம மெமரிய முதலே நம்ம டிவைட் பண்ணல, இவ்வளோ பார்ட்டிஷன் சொல்லி டிவைட் பண்ணல. நமக்கு மெமரி அவைலபிளா இருக்கு, எந்த ஒரு ப்ராசஸ்னாலும் என்ன ஒரு டைம்லனாலும் போய் அலோகேட் ஆகலாம். ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி நம்ம வச்சிருக்கோம் எந்த கேஸ்ல, மல்டிபிள் பார்ட்டிஷன் அலோகேஷன்ல. So here we are having some problem known as dynamic storage allocation problem. Okay, that is நம்ம என்ன பண்றோம் இந்த கேஸ்ல, மெமரியை வந்து அலோகேட் பண்றோம். So dynamic storage allocation means at that execution time only we are allocating some process into the main memory. So that is dynamic. That is dynamic means it usually represent during the execution time or during the runtime. Okay. So dynamically only we are allocating the process into the main memory. So at that time we have to know how those memory will be accommodated, how those process will be accommodated into the memory. We have to know is how to satisfy the request of a process which is of size n. Okay, so we may have some list of free holes. Okay, from that list of free holes, how a process of size n can be accommodated. We have to have some rule for that process allocation in that free memory. For that we are following three mechanisms. So first one is first fit. That is here this dynamic storage allocation problem will be in a fixed partition scheme. Okay, there is a memory will be partitioned into fixed size. Okay, so at that time if a process enters means how that process will be allocated into the memory. Means if you see we are having three mechanisms. One is first fit, another one is best fit, another one is burst fit. First fit means we are having different partitions of memory. There is a first partition that is big enough to hold that memory will be occupied by that process in case of first fit. Okay, first fit means the memory partition which comes first. So first fitல என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா, ஸோ நம்ம பார்ட்டிஷன்ல ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல இருந்து பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம். ஸோ அந்த ப்ராசஸ் ஹோல்ட் பண்றதுக்கு அந்த மெமரியோட சைஸ் பிக் எனாஃபா இருந்ததுன்னா அந்த ப்ராசஸ் எந்த ப்ராசஸ் ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல வருதோ அந்த ப்ராசஸ்ல போய் அலோகேட் ஆயிரும். ஓகே, ஸோ திஸ் வி வில் see with an example problem also. Here I am saying just the concept. Okay, see for this in the slide number 12 I have considered 4 different process, say P1, P2, P3, P4 of its memory 212 KB, 417 KB, 112 KB, 426 KB, and below we are having the memory of fixed partition. There is 100 KB, 500 KB, 200 KB, 300 KB and 600 KB. இது வந்து ஜெனரல்ஸ். Likewise, I am having different memory partitions. So by using first fit means, first fitல நம்ம என்ன பண்ணுவோம், so ஒரு process accommodate பண்ணோம்னா firstல இருந்து நம்ம பார்ப்போம். From the first partition we'll be seeing which process will be enough to hold that process. Okay, see this first fit என்ன பண்ணுவோம், so எந்த memory partition இந்த ப்ராசஸ் P1 ஹோல்ட் பண்ற அளவுக்கு enough சைஸ்ல இருக்கு நம்ம பார்த்துட்டு இருப்போம். See in the step 1 the first process is of size 212 KB. So நம்ம first partition வந்து 100 KB, first fit will be seeing from the first partition la irundhu paathuட்டு இருக்கோம். So adha first partition என்ன size 100 kb. So appo this process P1 can't enter into the first partition because the process P1 is of size 212 kb. But the first partition is 100 kb. So it will move on to the next partition. See, this next partition is of size 500 kb. So this 500 kb is enough for holding this process of size 212 kb. So that process will be allocated in that memory location 512 kb. Okay. So இந்த மாதிரி first partitionல இருந்து பார்த்துட்டே வரும். அதுல எந்த partitionக்கு இந்த மெமரிய இந்த ப்ராசஸ் மெமரியை ஹோல்ட் பண்ற அளவுக்கு கெப்பாசிட்டி இருக்கோ அந்த மெமரி பார்ட்டிஷன்ல போய் அலோகேட் ஆகும். ஓகே. The second case, that is in the second process, we are having the process of memory 417 kb. So this 417 kb will also be seen from the first partition. So if you see 100 kb, it is small to hold that 417 kb. So next, this 500 kb is already occupied by the process P1. Next it will see 200 kb partition. But our process P2 is of 417 kb. So it is not enough to hold that process. So next it will see 300 kb. It is also small, so it can't hold. Next at last we are having 600 kb. So this 600 kb can hold this process P2 of size 417 kb. Next, we are having the third process, that is the process P3 of size 112 kb. So from the first we'll be checking. First we are having 100 kb partition, it can't hold it. Next 500 kb partition is already allotted for another process. Next this 200 kb partition is free. So this process P3 will be accommodated in this partition 200 kb. Likewise, in first fit algorithm, the memory partition will be seen by each and every process from the first. So first la irundhu ஒவ்வொரு பார்ட்டிஷனும் செக் பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கும். எந்த பார்ட்டிஷன் வந்து இந்த சைஸ் இந்த ப்ராசஸ் சைஸை ஹோல்ட் பண்ண முடியும் அந்த மாதிரி ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல இருந்து பார்த்துட்டே வரும். எதோ ஹோல்ட் பண்ண முடியுமோ அங்க போய் இந்த ப்ராசஸ் அலோகேட் ஆயிரும். ஓகே. So in the last process we are having P4 of size 426 kb. To see the first memory partition is 100 kb, it is not enough for it. So next partition 500 kb is also already allocated. And the next process, so next partition of size 200 kb is also allocated. And the next partition is 300 kb. It is not enough because our process is of 426 kb. And the last partition is 600 kb. It is also allocated. So this process P4 can't be allocated in memory using this first fit algorithm because we don't have any partition which is of equal size or greater than the size of this process P4. So we can't allocate this process P4 into our memory. Okay. So like this only, the partitions will be accommodating each and every process by using first fit algorithm. So first fit algorithm la enna pannum, process first partition la irundhe check பண்ணிட்டே வரும். எந்த partition ஃப்ரீயா இருக்குன்னு பார்த்து அதுல போய் allocate ஆகும். and அந்த கெபாசிட்டிக்கு ஹோல்ட் பண்ற அளவுக்கு enough memory இருந்தா allocate ஆகும். This is first fit algorithm. Next we will see best fit algorithm. So this best fit algorithm will allocate a process which is smallest hole that is big enough to hold that. என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா best fit. So ஒரு process வருதுன்னா so அந்த processக்கு இருக்கிறதுலே smallest hole as well as it should be big enough to hold it. So அப்போ எல்லா பார்ட்டிஷன்லயும் செக் பண்ணும். எல்லா பார்ட்டிஷன்லயும் செக் பண்ணிட்டு அந்த பார்ட்டிஷனோட சைஸ் எதுக்கு வந்து கரெக்டா இருக்கோ அந்த பார்ட்டிஷன்ல போய் அந்த process allocate ஆகும். So in the best fit use பண்றதுனால we'll be having smaller leftover. That is, we are reducing this internal fragmentation using this best fit concept. So we will see this best fit concept, the same example of 4 different process and the same memory partition. Okay. See in the slide number 14, I have presented the same example using the best fit algorithm. See, first of all, we are having a process P1 of size 212 KB to enter into the memory partition. So the 212 KB la, so இதுக்கு small enough இருக்கணும் as well as it should be capable of holding. So best fit ஆகிற size நம்ம வந்து search பண்ணணும். 100 KB பார்த்தோம்னா என்னது? That is smaller than the process size. This 500 KB is larger than the, very much larger than the process size. And this 200 KB is a bit smaller than the process P1 size. This 300 KB is somewhat okay because it is somewhat relevant to the process size 212 KB. Next, this 600 KB is very large for holding this 212 KB. So we'll be choosing 300 KB, which is very near to that process size. So in best fit algorithm, the process size will be checked with the memory partition, which is nearer to the process size. So the 212 KB க்கு relevant nearer இருக்கிற process value வந்து choose பண்ணுவோம். Okay, so அப்படி பார்க்கும்போது இந்த எக்ஸாம்பிள்ல எந்த partition 212 KB hold பண்ணலாம்? 300 KB partition. So this process P1 will be accommodated in this 300 KB partition. Next comes the process 417 KB. See this first partition 400 for 417 KB, 100 KB is not enough. The second partition 500 KB is enough, but it's somewhat bigger. We will see. So இப்போ 417 KB ஓட second process உள்ள enter ஆகுது. இங்க 500 KB இருக்கு. இது nearer value தான். So for example இந்த 500 KB மாதிரி another one 450 KB ஃப்ரீயா இருக்குன்னா எங்க போய் allocate ஆகும்? எந்த memory partition இந்த process size க்கு nearby value னு பார்க்கும். 417 க்கு 500 KB nearer value ஆ 450 KB nearer value ஆ? 450 KB is the nearer value. So if you are having 450 KB memory partition, then this process P2 will be allocated in 450 KB partition. But here we are having only 500 KB partition, and the next one is 200 KB partition, so it can't be allocated. And last we are having 600 KB partition, but it is somewhat big to accommodate. So we are preferring this 500 KB partition for this process of size 417 KB. Okay, next comes the third process of size 112 KB. First partition is of size 100 KB. It is small to hold it. Next partition is already filled. Next we are having 200 KB. So it is more relevant. Next is, so we can occupy it. Although we will be seeing the remaining partition, whether we are having closer value to this memory size. 300 KB is already filled. 600 KB is very large to hold it. So we'll be preferring 200 KB. Okay. So best fit வந்து என்ன பண்ணும்? So அந்த process size க்கு எந்த memory partition nearer value ல இருக்கோ அங்க போய் accommodate ஆகும். Okay. Then comes the last process P4 of size 426 KB. See the first partition 100 KB is small to hold it. Next partition 500 KB is already filled. Next partition 200 KB is also already filled by process P3. The next partition 300 KB is also already filled by the process P1. And the last partition is 600 KB. It is free and it can accommodate this process P4. So no other way this process P4 will be accommodated this memory partition 600 KB. Like this will be accommodating different partition into the provided fixed memory partition using best fit algorithm. Okay. So best fit algorithm என்ன பண்ணும்? So எந்த memory nearer value, it should be small as well as it should be big enough to hold it. So அந்த மாதிரி எந்த memory partition அந்த process size இருக்கோ அதை பார்த்து அங்க போய் நம்ம allocate பண்றோம் best fit algorithm caseல. Okay. The next memory allocation is worst fit. So worst fit is a reverse of best fit. So best fit la enna paathom? The available space that should be smaller as well as big enough to hold the process. So worst fit la irukkiradile endha size, endha memory partition size ரொம்ப பெருசா இருக்கோ அங்க போய் தான் அந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ப்ராசஸ் அலோகேட் ஆகும். So here there will be large size of internal fragmentation. So leftover size வந்து எப்படி இருக்கும் ரொம்ப அதிகமா இருக்கும். Okay, whole means is the available size. Available memory size is the whole. Okay, so this best fit also we will see the same process example. So in the slide number 15 I have given that example. The step 1 will be accommodating the first process, that is P1 of memory 212 KB. Okay, here we are having 212 KB. So burst fit la enna paakum, so ஒரு process இருக்குறதுலே எந்த memory partition is large ன்னு சொல்லி check பண்ணிட்டு அந்த large memory partitionல போய் அந்த process accommodate ஆகும். Okay, so among these the memory partition which is large is 600 KB. So the first process we won't compare the size of that process. Okay, ஏன்னா அது இருக்கிறதுலே largest memory partitionல தான் போய் allocate ஆக போகுது. So this 212 KB is more enough for this 600 KB partition. Okay, so next P2 of size 417 KB. So இருக்கிறதுலே next largest partition எதுன்னு பார்ப்பாங்க. Next largest partition is 500 KB. So in this memory partition 500 KB, the process P2 of size 417 KB will be allocated. Next, using this burst fit algorithm, we'll be seeing next largest memory partition size is 300 KB. So this process P3 will be accommodated in 300 KB memory partition. And the last process P4 is 426 KB. So we have to check the next memory partition which is largest, that is 200 KB. But this 200 KB is not sufficient for holding this process P4 of size 426 KB. So using this burst fit algorithm, we can't place this process P4 in the memory partition because we won't have any memory partition which is of equal size or greater than the size of the process memory P4. Okay, so we have seen the first fit, burst fit and burst fit. In first fit algorithm, the first partition which is big enough to accommodate the process will be allocated. In burst fit algorithm, the smallest free memory which is big enough to accommodate that process will be accommodated. So in burst fit we'll be having only smaller leftover hole. That hole means is a free memory. Okay, in burst fit the process will be allocated with the largest available partition that can hold it. Here in this burst fit it produces largest leftover free memory. Okay, so while comparing these three allocation methods, this first fit and the best fit will be the better one, and this burst fit will be inefficient in terms of speed as well as storage utilization, because in case of burst fit we are going for a process memory which is of a higher partition. இருக்கிற partitionலே எந்த partition அதிகமான ஸ்பேஸோ போய் நம்ம accommodate பண்றோம், அப்போ அங்க remaining free space வந்து அதிகமா இருக்கு. So அப்ப அங்க போய் accommodate பண்ண முடியாது using this best fit algorithm. Okay, but if you see this best fit, we have to search all the partition. So எல்லா partitionையும் போய் check பண்ண வேண்டியதா இருக்கு. இருக்கிறதுல எது ஸ்மாலாவும் இருக்கு and big enough to hold that process memory நம்ம check பண்ண வேண்டியது இருக்கு ஒவ்வொரு partition போய். So this is somewhat time consuming. இது first fit பார்த்தா என்ன ஆகும், firstல எந்த partition big enough to hold that process அங்க போய் accommodate ஆகும். So that will be efficient, but on the first fit limits there is some drawback that it can't accommodate all the process. That is in the example நம்ம பார்த்தோம், the 4 process with the given partition same problem only we have used for 3 algorithms. See in first fit we can accommodate only 3 process, but in this best fit we can accommodate all these 4 process. Okay, all these 4 process are allocated in burst fit, so it is an efficient one, but we have to go through the partitions. So இருக்கிற partitions எல்லாத்துலயும் search பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கணும், எது வந்து small enough இருக்கணும் and big enough to accommodate that process இருக்கணும், check பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கணும். So that is a little bit time consuming in this burst fit problem. In burst fit, if we see means we are accommodating the large memory size. So it is inefficient in terms of speed as well as memory utilization. So normally best fit or first fit will be preferred in these allocation methods. So the problem like this will be given for you for today's assessment. I will give one problem. This first fit, best fit and worst fit example. Okay. One tutorial problem will be given to you. And next, you'll see external fragmentation and internal fragmentation. So already we have seen internal fragmentation. So internal fragmentation means in case of fixed memory allocation. So here in the slide number 16, I have provided a figure which shows a block of memory which is of fixed size 50 KB, 75 KB, 100 KB like that. That we are allocating some process. Okay. See at the last memory allocation, that is in the fifth partition. This for process P5 we have allocating in 150 KB. I am considering this process P5 is of size 75 KB. So remaining 75 KB is left over. So this leftover 75 KB is internal fragment. Okay. So internal fragmentation means this is a memory leftover. So if another process, say P7, request for main memory. This P7 is of size 100 KB. But if you see means in this memory model, the largest leftover is 75 KB. We have occupied all the partitions. Okay, all the partitions are allocated with some process, but the leftover, the largest leftover is 75 KB, but the upcoming processes of request 100 KB. So here comes this concept internal fragmentation. So internal fragmentation means that the allocated memory may be slightly larger than the requested memory. This difference in memory is internal partition but not being used. See, the allocated memory is 75 KB. In that partition 150 KB, which is slightly larger than it. So here we are having an internal fragment of 75 KB. Likewise, in all these partitions, there is in the first partition, in the zeroth partition, P3 also occupy the 50 KB, and there also we are having some leftover memory. It is internal fragment. In this first partition also, this P1 is occupied in the 75 KB partition, and it also has some leftover memory. And the second partition also we are having leftover memory. Like this, we are having the internal fragments in these things. So what do you mean by external fragmentation means? Here, in this case, we are having these so many fragments, internal fragments. Okay. So external fragmentation means the total memory space exists to satisfy a request, but it is not contiguous. So in contiguous memory allocation, we'll be allocating a memory for a process which is in contiguous section. Okay. Continuous இருக்கிற மெமரியை தான் ஒரு ப்ராசஸ்க்கு allocate பண்ணுவோம். So இந்த example பார்த்தோம்னா newly arrived process say P8 of request 150 KB. So if we can calculate these internal fragments, the internal fragments தான் calculate பண்ணா it may have total internal fragment space of 200 KB. So அந்த டோட்டலா அந்த இன்டர்னல் ஃபிராக்மெண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாத்தையும் ஆட் பண்ணோம்னா நமக்கு 200 மெமரியே இருக்கும். நம்ம புதுசா வர ப்ராசஸ் வந்து ஒரு 150 KB தான். ஆனா நம்ம அலோகேட் பண்ண முடியாது. ஏன்னா அந்த இருக்கிற 200 KBயும் எப்படி இருக்கு? ஃபிராக்மெண்ட்ஸா இருக்கு. So this concept is external fragmentation. So external fragmentation means the total memory space exists to satisfy a request for process P8, that is 150 KB is available in this memory model, but it is not continuous. It is in fragments. So this is known as external fragmentation. Okay. So நம்மளுக்கு fragments அந்த memory 150 KB available இருக்கு. ஆனா அது continuous இல்ல. Continuous இருந்தா தான் நம்ம என்ன பண்ணுவோம்? Contiguous memory allocationல allocate பண்ணுவோம். So this is external fragmentation. So how we can avoid this fragmentation? So to reduce this external fragmentation, we are going for compaction. Compaction means the previous case la pathomna, So we are having some leftover memory in all the partitions. So we'll be moving the process. So filled memory by the process எல்லாத்தையும் will be moving either upside or either downside. Move பண்ணும்போது அந்த free memory எல்லாம் combine ஆகி we can update in the bottom or at the top. Okay, அந்த in between உள்ள gap எல்லாத்தையும் நம்ம என்ன பண்றோம்? It is replaced by that filled memory. So P3 இருக்கா, next P3 க்கு அடுத்து என்ன வரும்? P1 process வரும். Next P2 process, next P4, after that P6, after that P5, and then at the below we'll be having a large amount of free space memory. That is, we are compacting the allocated memory. So இருக்கிற allocated memory எல்லாத்தையும் compact பண்ணி one side ல allocate பண்ணிட்டு, so அப்ப remainingல நம்மளுக்கு we'll be having a larger memory that is sufficient for allocating the new process request. So அந்த மாதிரி compact பண்றது இருக்கா, that is compaction. By doing this compaction we can reduce this external fragmentation problem. Okay, but for doing this external fragmentation we have to shuffle the memory content. So என்ன பண்றோம், memory content எல்லாத்தையும் shuffle பண்றோம். That is previous case ல P3 next immediate P1, immediate next to P2. So immediately we are having P4, next immediately we are having P6, and then P5. Likewise we are having all these process at next immediately. Okay, so we need to shuffle the memory content. So this compaction is possible only if the relocation is dynamic. That is relocation வந்து டைனமிக்கா இருந்தா மட்டும்தான் இந்த காம்பாக்ஷன் பாசிபிள். டைனமிக்னா அட் எக்ஸிகியூஷன் டைம்ல தான் இந்த ப்ராசஸ்லாம் அரைவ் ஆகுதுன்னா இட் இஸ் பாசிபிள். ஸோ இதுல நம்ம என்ன பார்த்திருக்கோம், ஆல்ரெடி வி ஹேவ் சீன் இன்புட் அவுட்புட் ப்ராப்ளம். இன்புட் அவுட்புட் ப்ராப்ளம்னா there is a pending input output. ஸோ ஏதாவது ஒரு ப்ராசஸ் இன்புட் அவுட்புட்காக வெயிட் பண்ணுதுன்னா it may have sent the request to that input output device. So that input output device may accept that request and sends the data to the same memory location where the request is received. Okay, so அதே பிளேஸ்க்கு கொண்டு வரும்போது நம்ம இப்ப என்ன பண்றோம், எல்லா மெமரி ஷஃபிள் பண்றோம். So அப்போ இந்த ப்ராப்ளம் அக்கர் ஆகும், இன்புட் அவுட்புட் ப்ராப்ளம். Okay, so அதனால தான் we are preferring the input output operation happening in OS buffers, but it may leads to double buffering. So பார்த்தோமா, நம்ம ப்ராசஸ் ஓடது OS buffer, அத kernel buffer போயிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் input output buffer போகுதுன்னா we will be having double buffers and the delay will be increased. So இந்த bufferல ஸ்டோர் பண்ணிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் input output bufferலயும் போய் ஸ்டோர் பண்ணணும். That is double buffering and it leads to some delay in accessing the data. Okay, so this compaction has some disadvantage if you are using input output data in our process. Okay, and this compaction is used only if this relocation is dynamic. That is, the process enters into the memory only during the execution means this compaction can be done. Okay, that is only we have saying by means of dynamic. See, this compaction or this fragmentation will happen not only in the main memory, it may happen in the backing store. That is, in secondary memory also we may have this compact fragmentation. ஏன்னா செகண்டரி மெமரிலையும் நம்ம என்ன பண்றோம், ப்ராசஸ் எல்லாத்தையும் ஸ்டோர் பண்றோம். ஸோ இதே மாதிரியே தான் அங்கேயும் ஸ்டோர் பண்றோம். ஸோ இன் செகண்டரி மெமரி ஆல்சோ we may have this fragmentation problem. That is, this internal fragmentation problem and external fragmentation problem may arise in secondary memory also. So thus we have seen about two types of fragmentation: internal fragmentation and external fragmentation. Next, just we'll start the segmentation concept. Okay, next, so till now we saw about contiguous memory allocation. So in contiguous memory allocation we saw about fixed partition scheme and multiple partition scheme. Okay, and the types of fragmentation which is involved in contiguous memory allocation. Now we are going to see about non-contiguous memory allocation. So non-contiguous memory allocation means here we are going to allocate the memory for the process which is of non-contiguous section. So நம்ம allocate பண்ற process memory எப்படி இருக்கும், ஒரே continuous section இல்லாம that memory will be broken down into pieces for a particular process. So ஒரு process allocate பண்றதுக்கே அந்த மெமரியை வந்து different pieces allocate பண்றோம். We will see it in more detail or more clear by using this segmentation technique. So the segmentation is a memory management scheme. Okay, it will be very useful in a user's point of view. Okay, to see means the user will see a program. ஒரு user ஒரு program நீங்க C program consider பண்ணிக்கலாம். So we'll be having several segments. So segments means I'm classifying it into main program. A C program may have a main program. Some procedures will be there, as in C++ and all. So some functions will be there, some methods. So here I'm considering the C++ program. Okay. In C++ program, there will be a main program and some procedures will be there, then some functions, then some methods, then some objects, and we'll be having the variables, that to a local variable and global variable, and some common block means the set of memory is shared between different functions. That only I'm saying it as common block. And we'll be having stack memory and symbol table and some arrays. Okay. This is the segment when seen in user's point of view. ஒரு user ஒரு program different segment divide பண்ணலாம்னு சொன்னாங்கன்னா இந்த மாதிரி main memory செப்பரேட்டா ஒரு segment ஆகும். Procedure ஒரு program உள்ள main memory ஒரு segment and procedure ஒரு segment then function another one segment then this method can be in another segment. Likewise, we can separate a single program into different segments. So these different segments will be occupied in the memory. Okay. Here in this non-contiguous allocation scheme segmentation, we are going to divide the whole program into several segments, because our program itself is a collection of segments like main program, functions, procedures and all. So we are going to divide our program into segment like this, and we are going to allocate the main memory of segments. For example, we are considering a program of large size. ஒரு ப்ரோக்ராம் ரொம்ப பெரிய ப்ரோக்ராம் நம்ம கன்சிடர் பண்றோம். ஸோ அப்போ அந்த ப்ரோக்ராம்ல மெயின் ப்ரோக்ராமோட கெப்பாசிட்டி அதிகமா இருக்கும், அதோட ப்ரொசீஜர்ஸ் அதெல்லாம் அதிகமா இருக்கும். ஸோ அப்போ நம்ம கரண்டா அந்த ப்ரோக்ராம்ல எந்த பார்ட் யூஸ் பண்ண போறோம், main program use பண்ண போறோம்னா that main program can be in memory. If you're going to use that procedure means that procedure can be in memory. So likewise, we are dividing that program itself into several segments, and we are going to allocate the memory for those segments, not that complete process is in memory. Okay. So what is the difference between process and program? Program means it is a list of instructions. Process means a program in execution. Okay. Here in segmentation, we are going to keep the segments of program into memory. Which segment of program is currently executing only in the memory, not the whole program is kept in memory like the previous case in non-contiguous memory allocation. Okay. Here a particular segment of program only is kept in memory. There is a particular segment of process is only kept in memory in this segmentation concept. Okay. Likewise, if you see means here you are having user's view of program. If I say means in our logical address, we'll be having subroutine. There is a function and some stack will be there, some single symbol table and some main program. This sqrt may be another function. Okay, like that we'll be having for a single program itself. We can classify it into these segments. Okay, in the logical address space. That is in user's point of view, we can divide the program into segments like this. Then how this logical view of segmentation will be means, see in our user space, that is we are segmenting, that is we are dividing our program into 4 segments in user space. Okay, 1 2 3 4 in user space. So in physical memory space, how it will be allocated means, see like this, we'll be having a block of memory, and the first segment will be in some location, second segment will be in some location, and the third segment will be in some location. See, all those segments are not in continuous itself. So the segments ellame or continuous memory le illa, and between that segments also we are having some free memory or some other memory occupied in between. So using the segmentation concept, this process memory, this program memory is not completely kept in main memory. Only the part or the segment of the program is kept in main memory, that too not in a contiguous memory location. So on the part or in the segment என்ன பண்ணல continuous memory locationல place பண்ணல. We have arranged the segments of the program in different segments. It is in different non-contiguous segments only we have arranged here. Likewise, we'll be having this segmentation concept. Okay. For this segmentation concept, this logical address will be having two tuples. That is, this logical address will include segment number and offset. So we have seen our program itself will be divided into several segments. Okay. So each and every segment will have its own number. So ஒவ்வொரு செக்மெண்ட்டுக்கும் ஒவ்வொரு நம்பர் இருக்கும். ஸோ அந்த செக்மெண்ட்ல அந்த ப்ரோக்ராம் கோடிங் ஆர் அந்த டேட்டா எந்த லொகேஷன்ல இருக்கு. That is offset. Offset means it's normally a value to be added to a number or to be subtracted from a number is only the offset. So இங்க என்னன்னா segment 1 if you are considering means அந்த segment 1ல எந்த டேட்டாவை ரீட் பண்ண போறோம், இந்த அட்ரஸ் எந்த டேட்டா பாயிண்ட் பண்ணுது. Segment 1ல என்ன இருக்கும், there will be some set of address. For example, from 150 to 170 தான் segment 1 நம்ம கன்சிடர் பண்ணிக்கிறோம். அந்த segment 1 150 to 170ல the offset will be representing a value such as so 150 to 170 ன்னு சொல்றோம். so இப்போ அந்த offset value எப்படி இருக்குன்னா will be from 0 to 20. okay. so அந்த offset value 0 னா இந்த segment 1 the offset value is 0 means I am considering the segment sizes from 150 to 170. okay. அந்த segment 1 ஓட size 150 ல இருந்து 170 தான் நான் கன்சிடர் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். so இப்போ அந்த offset number வந்து 0 means it points to that address location 150. okay. The segment number is same 1 and the offset number is 1 means it points to 150 plus 1. okay. If 0 means 150 plus 0, it points to the same location 150. The same segment number is 1 and the offset is 1 means 150 because the segment 1 starts from the location 150. So 150 plus that offset value 1 will be added and that points to that address. okay. So in the logical address we'll be having the segment number as well as object. okay. That is for example if you are considering a book. so ஒரு book எடுத்துக்கிட்டீங்கன்னா அந்த bookல will be having several chapters. so ஒவ்வொரு சாப்டரும் for example in some books and all will be having for the first chapter 1.12 1.3 1.4 1.5 up to 1.50 we'll be having some page number like this in some books. okay. for chapter 1. for chapter 2 we'll be having page number like 2.0 2.2 2.3 2. up to 2.35 like that. for 35 pages will be in chapter 2. that is these chapters are considered segments. okay. so ஒவ்வொரு chapters நான் segment ன்னு சொல்றேன். அந்த offset value என்ன சொல்றேன்னா இங்க 1.0 means first unit first chapter ஓட first page 1.0. 1.1 means first chapter ஓட second page தான் 1.1. okay. so on the point value on the 0.1 0.2 that represent offset here. so அதே மாதிரி இங்க segment பார்த்தோம்னா the 1.1 bookல 1.1 page number belongs to first chapter's second page. likewise I am saying here segment 1 and offset 1 means it denotes first segment's second memory location. okay. so first segment or location starts from 150. the first location is 150. here we are having an offset value. so we have to add that offset value to the base register of that segment. so 150 plus 1 means 151. okay. likewise we'll be having this offset value to be added to this segment base register for obtaining this logical address to physical address. okay. we'll continue the segmentation topic in the next class because time is going to up. So we'll have a quick recap of what we saw in today's class. In today's class, we saw about swapping memory management technique. That is simply swapping out a process from the main memory into the disk storage and bringing a process from the disk storage into the main memory is known as swapping. Then we saw the context switching and swapping and the double buffering problem and input pending input output problem and all we saw in swapping. And the swapping is normally not used in mobile system. So how that main memory will be freed in iOS and in Android and all we saw. Then we saw the classification of memory management techniques. This memory management techniques is classified into two: contiguous memory allocation, non-contiguous memory allocation. In contiguous memory allocation, we are having two types: fixed partition scheme and multi-partition scheme. Non-contiguous allocation, we are having two techniques: paging and segmentation. So first we saw about contiguous memory allocation. In contiguous memory allocation, continuous segment of memory is allocated to different process. So that we saw using a relocation register. Next we saw about the fixed memory partition as well as multiple partition allocation. Next we saw some dynamic storage problem. That is how we will be allocating memory using the three mechanism: first fit, bus fit and worst fit. With the help of a problem we saw, and the similar problem will be given for tutorial also. Have to do it. And we saw about fragmentation that occurring in partitions and all. There is internal fragmentation and external fragmentation. And then how to overcome this fragmentation by compaction technique. And we saw about segmentation. It is a method of non-contiguous memory allocation. How memory will be separated into several segments. How a program's memory will be separated into several segments. That is in user point of view as well as in physical memories space also, how it can be segmented. And then just we saw how to represent the logical address in segmentation. So we'll continue the rest in next class. Okay, about segmentation we'll continue it in next class. If you have any doubt in today's class, you can ask me.